Good morning. My name is Lindsay Hines with the Community Sector Council Newfoundland and Labrador. Before we get started today, I would like to start with a land acknowledgement. I'm joining you from St. John's. St. John's is home to a rich, diverse, and vibrant urban Indigenous community located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Beothuk. The lands and waters in and around the city have traditionally served as a gathering place for the Mi'kmaq. The broader region of Newfoundland and Labrador continues to be home to diverse Indigenous peoples, including First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We honor and pay respect to the past, present, and future caretakers of these territories. Welcome, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Lindsay Hines. I work with the Community Sector Council, Newfoundland and Labrador, as a Director of Community Vitality and Social Innovation. Coffees on are the purpose of these events. We keep them short because we acknowledge that folks, especially in the community sector, have limited time and resources. We're very busy changing lives in our communities. So we can try to keep these as short and impactful as possible. It's an information sharing space for change makers in our province. And in today's situation, Atlantic Canada, we're including PEI in the conversation, and I'll let Stephanie and Corey elaborate a little further on that. So my work in the Coffee's On, we share information around the social determinants of health. And so employment and all the other things that Ascend does really aligns well in this portfolio. Um, just some logistics for today. Stephanie and Corey will have a presentation and they'll have lots of information for you. We're going to ask that you hold your questions to the end. However, if you have a brain like me and you need to get it out, put it into the chat and we will absolutely address it at the end. Also, if you came in just a few moments later, we have asked, if you don't mind, if you're comfortable, to please add your pronouns to your name on Zoom. And you can do that by opening the participant list and just clicking on the three dots, and it will pop up rename. And you can add your organization, your pronouns, whatever you'd like. Okay. Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie James. I'm the program manager of our new Ascend program that we're going to be talking about today. So I have a little presentation I'm going to run through with everyone, kind of give you the nuts and bolts, how does it work? And then like Lindsay said, we're going to take some questions at the end. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. Okay, good.
I don't know if you can see me. I'm giving you a thumbs up. You're good.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
thumbs up, Stephanie.
Sorry.
Good job.
Good. Okay. Yay. Okay. I apologize if I cough. I'm doing my best to like hold it all in here today. So excuse me. So Ascend is achieving success through community engagement and development. That's what the acronym stands for. I know Lindsay gave you a little bit about CSC NL. So basically we exist to foster social and economic well-being by caring for those who care for others. So we do work with a lot of nonprofits and charitable organizations. We're a charitable organization ourselves, governed by a nonprofit board of directors, just like probably most of you here today, your organizations are. So the target, group for Ascend is NEET youth. So NEET means not in education, employment, in training. So as long as they're in none of those things, they're considered NEET youth. Unfortunately, NEET youth in Canada, 11% of youth are considered NEET. Nunavut has the highest rates of NEET youth with 36%. Newfoundland and Labrador has the highest among the provinces. So we sit at 17% of our youth are NEET. Nova Scotia is 12%, PEI is 10%. Excuse me. The reason we have these numbers here specifically are these are the other areas we're working on partnerships with to be able to do the Ascend program as well. So we have a partnership with CSN PEI. So our colleague Christine Batten's on here with us today. So she's doing that in PEI. So she's going to be the community engagement counselor in PEI for the Ascend program. So basically how it's going to work is we're going to recruit host organizations and NEAT youth participants. So a lot of you here today might be interested in becoming a host organization. You can apply to be an employer. We will be putting out calls for expression of interest, hopefully very soon. And then we're going to have a 2-week pre-employment training period for the youth. So for anyone that's familiar with Amplify, they do get career and personal development training throughout. With Ascend, we're going to get them for 2 weeks and they're going to do it all at once. We're working on a really good schedule of training to get for them. It's going to be a lot of soft skills, technical skills, interpersonal skills, things like even just like, you know, phone etiquette, how to make phone calls, how to write professional emails, how to communicate, maybe some digital literacy. We don't have like a full schedule nailed down yet, but these are the things that we're working on. And we are looking to hear from potential host employers to hear from them, like what they would like to see and what they feel from their experience are things that would be helpful for NEAT youth to get. And we're going to help build our training 2-week period around that. And then there's going to be an employment period. So we will match youth up with host employer organizations. We'll place them for 19 to 21 weeks. Ideally, it will be 19 weeks of full-time. We do have that bit of flexibility in there in case someone can't do full-time or can't do full-time right off the hop. You know, sometimes if you haven't been working for a long time, maybe immediately going into 35 hours a week is going to be overwhelming. So we will have that flexibility built in there, you know, so we're not setting them up to fail from the beginning if they can't do full-time. So we'll place them with employers. And like I said, we have community engagement counselors. So we'll have one for Newfoundland and Labrador as well. Tiffany is on here today. So she's going to be doing weekly check-ins with all of the NEAT youth participants to make sure everything's going okay. Maybe if there's any issues, she can check, you know, or catch them before they become like bigger issues and kind of make sure that she's fully supporting them, but also like for the employer side, like if anything is, you know, maybe she could help with the communication if something's not going right and there's any kind of challenges in between there. So one of the goals of this project or program, besides like getting employment experience for youth, is to help young people see the community sector as an employer. You know, we want people to see that it can be a place to build a career. It can be a meaningful career, which is really important to especially a lot of young people. I feel like we're often talked about as the community or nonprofit sector is a drive-through sector, right? You go work at a nonprofit for a few years, get some experience, and then go work in government or something. And I'm probably preaching to the converted here today because a lot of you probably do work in the community sector. So you understand that you can build a career in it. I'm doing it, you know, all of my colleagues are doing it. So we really want to raise the awareness that this can be a place to get valuable experience and skills and build a career if you want to. And, you know, there are 18,000 people in this province employed in the community sector. So we're like up there, equal or above like fishery, construction, tourism, like we're on par with all of those industries. So like we're actually quite a large employer in this province and we want young people to see that. Excuse me. So basically we're going to focus on getting them skilled up, getting them some experience. That 19 to 21 weeks, like that's a nice long employment period. We want them to be able to have all of this to go on their resume. So all of the pre-employment training, we will make sure that they get certificates of completion where possible. So all of those little training are going to look really good on a resume for them. And then that nice long employment period is going to be good experience for them as well. So hopefully they could get back into the workforce permanently, or maybe they want to go back to school. They realize that, they'd like to go back and get some kind of diploma or certificate or degree, whatever it is that they need, depending on their goals. And for youth, we're saying 16 to 30 is youth. So if they're age 16 to 30 and they're not employed in education or training, like, they qualify for this. We're not trying to compete with any other employment programs. If your organization has an employment program, we don't want your participants. Like, we're looking to catch the ones that might not fit in other programs. Or, there might be, like, some of them I get asked all the time, does it matter if they're on EI or EI attached or, on income support? Those things don't matter for this program. Actually someone said to me today that you're EI attached for 10 years now. So that's a really long time. So if you can't be EI attached, that's a 10-year period that, like, precludes people from some of the programs. So we're looking to fill the gaps and, get youth that are furthest from employment. Our priority areas are rural and remote areas, which most of Newfoundland and Labrador qualifies as rural and remote. Black, Indigenous, or other racialized youth. 2 is LGBTQI plus youth, single parents, like the ones that have the most barriers getting into the workforce or building their career, however they want that to look. So as for benefits to employers, obviously, offsetting staff shortages would be a big one. Youth engagement with your organization. I had someone say, like, young people don't really volunteer with us anymore. Like, they don't really know what we're doing. They don't know how we work. So it's a really great way to get young people engaged in your organization. And so they understand what you're doing and what you do. And excuse me, they could potentially end up being future leaders or volunteers. I know we've had youth go through programs with CSC and end up, like, sitting on boards of directors or even being an executive director, like, end up permanently working at organizations. So we will cover 100% subsidy of the Newfoundland and Labrador minimum wage. We will subsidize, and we will also fully cover the MERCs, so the mandatory employment related costs. So, the EI contributions, CCP, all these kinds of things. And it's an employer-informed program. So we have been doing roundtables across the province for the past couple of weeks. We are having a virtual one tomorrow. So if you're here and this is interesting and you'd like to participate as potentially an employer tomorrow, we've been talking to potential host employers and asking them, like, what have been your experiences, your challenges, difficulties, barriers, successes, like what has worked with working with NEET youth and, like, working with them in your organization. So we're going to use all of that research to inform how we roll out and design and implement this program. Benefits to youth participants. Obviously, they're going to get those skills development. They're going to get the 2 weeks of training and on-the-job experience. It's going to help build their confidence. Sometimes that's the biggest barrier, is just lack of confidence to think that they can actually do something. It's going to be supported employment. So again, we're going to have the career counseling, access to resources. So maybe, if someone needs a taxi to a job interview and they don't have any money, we can help them with that. Maybe with childcare, or, if someone needs special clothes like steel toe boots or something, like, we can help remove some of those barriers that, they might not be able to go to work otherwise if it wasn't for this program. And it also is going to be, I said employer informed, but it's also going to be youth informed, right? So we want to hear what the youth's barriers are, what are their needs, what are their challenges, do they need any accommodations, like, what can we do to really help set them up for success, and just from hearing what they need. Okay, so that was my little rundown. I don't know, Corey, if I've missed anything, or Tiffany maybe, or Christine, is there anything that you feel like I should have had in there?
No, I think that you covered it all pretty well. I think we're going to give your voice a chance to rest there. as Stephanie was talking about, this program is based upon the framework of the successful Amplify program that many of your organizations maybe have availed of over the years. I can already see maybe two or three in the chat that I've worked with before. Um, but I like to kind of think of this program as kind of like Amplify, but Amplify if it had a lot of resources. Some of the youth that have come through the Amplify program, they've been youth with barriers to employment. They've been in the position where, they would need additional resources to kind of remove those barriers that weren't always available to them. But over the time that I've delivered the Amplify program, getting to know the sorts of different challenges that face a lot of youth in this province when it comes to, finding a job, becoming involved in their community, learning things like, I'll give an example. One time when I first started with Amplify, one of the very first interviews I conducted with a young girl was she came to the office and just, as an introductory kind of find out about her and what her interests are to kind of pair her up with the community organization. We had a checklist of things that we would ask them. And one of the questions that we would ask is, do you have anything in your life that might uh, prevent you from showing up to work on a daily basis? And this girl who came to my office she couldn't have been older than 16. She was, a child in my eyes, which I probably shouldn't think that way. She said that she couldn't because she didn't have anyone to take care of her baby. And it kind of froze me for a second that I didn't think that somebody that age would have a child that they're looking after, on their own, in fact. Um, Luckily she was, in a position whereby her family was able to kind of help her out with that barrier. But there are a lot of youth that have come through our programming that are single parents. That's kind of a stumbling block with them being able to hold down a job. They have to find accommodations for their child's care. Sometimes it's a matter of not being able to afford childcare. So they've wind up, disengaging, that they're not able to remove that barrier from their life and therefore become, more meaningfully engaged. So as Stephanie kind of detailed, there will be resources available as part of the interview process with the youth who apply to this program. Part of working with them and with the counselors that we will have is to meet with them and kind of find out what those sorts of barriers or supports that they might need to be able to engage in this meaningfully. And we can help them overcome that because we will have resources for it. Um, the other thing is kind of another aspect of this program is through our learnings and Amplify of the years is that youth are they're motivated when it comes to being a part of an organization and finding something that they feel they have a direct impact on. It isn't that youth don't want to be engaged in their community, but sometimes they don't feel like they're being welcomed in. They don't feel like they see the results of what they're working towards. So putting them with community organizations, we feel is a way for them to understand the impact of the community sector on the regions where they live. Um, we find that youth are more likely to continue, showing up for work and developing better work habits and things like that if they see a direct impact on what they're doing on their community or a topic or something that they want to be engaged in. Um, so that's another part of the program that we are hopeful that will, kind of drive youth to become more engaged and leave their neat status behind. I see Lindsay has her hand up for a question.
You know I do. So there's 2 points I wanted to make. So I know, I'm a little bit biased. I work at CSC, but I don't know a great lot about the program. But one of the pieces of language I think Stephanie and I have agreed, I think this program will do really well, would be like a supported referral. So it's not just placing a young person in an organization for employment experience. Like Stephanie mentioned, Tiffany's going to check in once a month. And let's be real, they are neat youth and they're also human beings. And I always say that we're all one life experience away from being at risk, including myself. So if if something did arise where there was a bump in the road, they have support beyond the organization. So it's not just the organization who's now developed a relationship with little Lindsay, it's also the Ascend team. So I just wanted to kind of make that a bit of a point to make. And then the other would be I have a question around what youth go to the organization. So is it we, our partners can recruit neat youth, but could it also be like I have a youth in my network that I want to employ here? Can I go to you and say, but I want that youth here versus you
Oh,
giving me a random youth? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, that's a really good question, and it's actually something that we do encourage. Um, Basically, when we think of with the Amplify program, I always keep going back to that as an example. Um, when we recruit host organizations in that program, sometimes we will place youth with them that are kind of referred to us by our funder for the program. But we also give them the opportunity to identify youth in their community who might be able to make the most use of the program. The idea of having an organization who is, boots on the ground in their community, the benefit of that is that they know the people where they live. They know the families that are in these situations whereby, there are barriers. They know the low income people. They know people who might have just moved to the community that are newcomers or indigenous groups and things like that. Being able to identify those people who are going to not just need, but most benefit from a program like Send, it's definitely something we would encourage, especially if this person happens to be someone who might be a regular volunteer with the organization or maybe even on their client list. Having that familiarity kind of breeds, a better experience, I think. If they're somebody who volunteers with their organization, chances are, they support what that organization does and are interested in it legitimately. So therefore, their work experience and seeing their impact on something that they genuinely care about, that's huge. I mean, it's a major thing. If somebody who's on their client list, then yeah, we would certainly encourage them to, if they identify that as part of their application process, they can recommend that youth to us, have the youth fill out their form and things like that. We would already have that sort of pairing already in place. So yeah, we would definitely encourage that.
Go ahead, Christine.
One thing I don't think was mentioned, and I think it's going to be huge for us here in Prince Edward Island, is remote work will be supported. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Because here on the island, as I don't know how many of you've been here, but there's a lot of remote work happening. I'm remote. My office is an hour and a half away. So I think that's the way the workplace is going. And I think that's going to be a huge component for this program, that flexibility, even if it's only part-time remote and sometimes in the office and those kinds of things. So I think that's really, really big.
Thanks,
Excellent
Christine.
point. Yeah.
And I just have one question in the chat from me again, and then I'm gonna be quiet and we can open it up to like the general if people want to unmute and chat or put it in the chat box. So my question was, can an organization host more than one Ascend youth at the same time?
Yes, definitely. When we created Amplify years ago, the idea was kind of that if you had a bunch of participants who were working as a team together, there was a benefit to that. Having the interpersonal skills, being able to show teamwork and come together to work together in an organization is important. If an organization has the capacity to take on more than one Ascend youth at a time, yes, we would encourage that.